Welcome back, guys. I've got an air compressor that won't start. It's got a Honda motor on it. Actually, it's got a Harbor Freight knockoff Honda motor on it. A lot of these small engines have the same problem, that they've got a little carburetor and they get some condensation or you get some bad fuel, and that fills up that float bowl. So I'm going to show you guys how to fix this. So what we need is a plug wrench, 13/16 socket on this one. Need a propane torch to dry the plug out with. We need either a 10mm wrench or a socket, or a pair of Knipex pliers will work just fine. We've got some carb cleaner and a clear bottle. We're going to drain into that, and let me show you how this works. This will be the same for a lot of lawnmowers, rototillers, you name it. If it's got a little Honda motor and it's got the little bowl on the bottom of that carburetor, you're going to be able to drain this thing, spray it out, clean your plug, and 9 times out of 10 the thing will be off and running. And put some fresh fuel in it, and we've got little or no problems after that. I do this day in, day out. I get these all the time. Guys can't get it to start, they bring it to me, pop that bowl off. Usually I throw a new plug in it. On this one, we're just going to go check it out and see what we find. It's gonna be a little tough on audio. We got a pretty good rainstorm going, and we've got a tin roof over our head. But basically what you need is something clear that you can see through. Gas will eat this plastic, so if you got an old mason jar or an old glass or something is better. But essentially all we're going to do, we're going to pull this little screw out of here, and we're going to let this start draining. And kind of tough to show you guys this, but I can tell that's water, not fuel. Oh yeah, see that? And you can actually see that separation layer already. I don't have any real bad crud inside this bowl. A lot of times you need to spray this out. But we're just gonna let that sit there and drain. So all we've got is that's the drain plug. It's got a seal on it. It threads up inside there, holds this thing up, and then you've got a rubber seal on this. It's all really simple. Don't mess with it too much. And then the way this works, you've got a float right here, and when the gas fills that bowl up to the right level, this float comes up, and there's a needle and seat, and that pushes against it. So I've got my fuel turned on, and as long as we see that working, now you don't want to push hard on this, just barely lift it up, and it should stop before you even push it all the way up in there. And this pin here kind of centers that deal. So right out of the gate here, we can see quite a bit of water that was down in there. Now what happens is, in that bowl down at the bottom is where that gas is shooting up in there to run your engine. So if you got water, this thing's not going to start no matter what you do. So we're just going to let that sit there and drain. That fuel looks pretty crummy. And I'm going to pull this spark plug out, see what he looks like. Where is it? There it is. Thing is really in there. So like I say, I'm just going to drain a good little bit of this fuel. Make sure I get all the water. I can still see it just barely. I can still see it swirling in there, but you can see by and large the bulk of that problem was down in the bottom. So I need to look at my fuel cap and see if my fuel cap is not sealing. I don't know how well you can see that. That plug is wet, and that is water. So we're going to dry that out with the old torch here. These plugs get hot in the engine, it's not hurting them to get a little bit of hot with the torch. And then I'm going to put a little tiny bit of anti-seize on that when I put it back in, so it doesn't get stuck in there. So I am going to call that good. And that's the choke. And So our fuel shut off. Set this aside. That makes great fire starter if you mix that stuff up with a little bit of diesel and a little bit of used motor oil for your bonfires. So I take a little bit of carb cleaner. And right in the center here is where that jet's at. I'm just going to spray him out. We're going to give that a little schmutz. I'm going to put him back on here. Just watch that rubber seal. It needs to go up in there. And when you put this up in here, you should be feeling like you're pushing smooth rubber. It shouldn't feel like you're got something jagged. If it did, then that seal's not in its place there. So I'm just gonna put this guy on here, snug him down. And you can also pull this plug, but this plug gets it all out and allows you to spray that primary jet out of there. So we'll just turn our gas back on, and we're gonna let that sit for a few minutes and make sure we don't have any leaks there. Just happen to have anti-seize here. So you ain't got to go crazy with this stuff, just a little tiny bit on there. And you don't have to paint it all the way around. It'll paint itself all the way around as you thread it in. Big thing is get that thing in there. They sit at a funny angle in these, so need to make sure you get it started and don't cross thread it. Come on, where are you? There it is. Once we get it started, then I'll throw the socket on it. I like to make sure these things thread in a good couple of turns before you put a ratchet on it, because if it starts cross threading, it's just in that aluminum head and you cause yourself all sorts of problems. So she's down, and give this a little, just a little bump, doesn't take much. And then put our boot back on him, and that's probably going to run now. I'm going to go get some fresh fuel, and I'm going to top this off with fresh fuel. Get a couple of tools out of our way here, and see if she runs. Guys, hopefully a little better view here. We got not much light going on. So another thing that'll keep these things from starting would be oil. If this thing's low on oil, it's got an automatic deal where it will not start. So check your oil before you run these things. It'll save you headaches. So when I started that, I was actually off choke instead of on choke, but figured that out pretty quickly. So this is actually a Harbor Freight air compressor. Good unit. I don't know why I keep getting water in it. It happens every winter. I'll get some. I think it's just a matter of the can on the truck gets wet, and we end up with water in the fuel somehow. And you know, if I wasn't filming, this takes about 2 minutes to do this. It's not a big deal. So do it once in a while. I get a lot of customers bring rigs in that have this issue, so pop a 10mm screw out of there, drain it out, clean your plug, off to the races. Just wanted to show you guys this. That's the water on the bottom. That's why we use a clear container, and hopefully you can see that well, but that is That is the water in the bottom of that thing. That little bowl was literally full of it. And then that's your clean fuel on top. So that's why we use a clear reservoir. Take a little water sample. Even a bug in there. That was probably in the bottle. But alright guys, hopefully that clears up some stuff and you guys can figure out your own small equipment. You know, if you got just about any little small Honda, the Harbor Freight motors, a lot of this stuff is the same. If it's got one of those bowls on it, drain that thing out, give it a couple squirts of carb cleaner, some fresh fuel, clean the plug, and usually you'll be off to the races at that point. So hopefully save you guys from having to put your stuff in the shop and wait for it when you need it, and keep that money in your pocket. Thanks for watching.